And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. After a very short break, we have our players ready for a mirror matchup, for a PvP between Europa and the North Americas. And here we go. We're diving straight on in, spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Gressvan. We have the German Protoss player representing Berlin International Gaming, Big Esports. It is ShoWTimE. And spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Canadian Protoss player representing Team Basilisk. It is Trigger. Oh boy. Not our first PvP of the group, but our last PvP here of the broadcast of Group A. Exclamation mark B in the chat if you guys want to have a look at the standings yourself, because this is an important one. Now, Trigger has had a rough tournament. He's had a rough group. He has not won a single series. Trigger cannot make it out of Group A, but he can stop ShoWTimE from making it out of Group A. ShoWTimE is still in contention. He needs to win this series, 100%. He needs to win this, and he needs other players to lose if ShoWTimE wants to get out of Group A. Trigger can stop that from happening. He has the power. There is still weight behind this series. The pressure is on. Here we go. ShoWTimE is going for a double gate opener. So is Trigger, as we are on Gressvan, a map that doesn't have a ramp coming into the natural, so no one is bold enough to go for a gate expand. If Max Pax were here, he would. He would, as ShoWTimE is going to be going for some mind games. As the probe of Trigger comes in, he's going to see the first pylon. He's going to get into the mineral line, and he's going to see, hold up, where is your second pylon? Why isn't it at home? The answer, because it's on the map. And ShoWTimE is making it look like he's proxying, but it's a fake proxy pylon. It's just designed to get into the head of Trigger and maybe force an overreaction. As we do see a double adept opener here from ShoWTimE, likewise double adept opener from Trigger as well. As Trigger has both pylons in his main. It's going to be on both players to get an eye on what first two units come out. They will elicit different reactions and different responses. There's double Stalker, there's double Adept, there's Stalker Sentry, different joinings here of units. As the Adepts are now moving out from both players. And interesting, ShoWTimE behind this is going to delay his Nexus, and he goes for a Stargate follow-up. Likewise, Trigger goes for a Twilight Council follow-up instead. So already the players are diverging in their builds. Adepts are going to be bypassing each other as well, as Trigger is scouting, and he does come across the proxy pylon. He now knows that he is safe and sound. Oh, but the probe is being hunted down. Oh, it was going to be hunted down by ShoWTimE, but he'll let it go. We'll let it go. Adepts are rocking up across the map, but ShoWTimE is able to wall off in time. Does deny entry, as ShoWTimE is just being really aggressive this game. He's up to 4 Adepts, and he's got an Oracle on the way as well. Up! The Adepts do commit to the Shade, and we're going to be able to trade 1 for 1. ShoWTimE trading out a little bit better in the end. Does force Trigger back, but it looks like there may have been... this is what we were talking about. Smurge, Bappy Smurge. Yeah, there's a bug in the game. Oh no, there's a bug in the game. For those wondering, you cannot cancel the shield battery. When you throw down a shield battery, you cannot cancel it, and that means that Trigger cannot... He has to kill his own... Oh, that's such a shame. Oh no, he didn't know. He didn't know. There's a bug in the game right now where you cannot cancel the shield battery, which is why ShoWTimE was blocking with pylons. ShoWTimE, he was aware. He was pylon blocking, not shield battery blocking. And there we go. Now we have pylons now. That is rough though. That is brutal. Meanwhile, the Oracle shows up. Doesn't get too much done. Gets a stasis trap off on one probe. Only one. For those wondering, this bug is new. It's been less than 24 hours. Less than 24 hours since the bug has been introduced. And hopefully it gets fixed soon. Until then, Protoss players, they do have to wall off with pylons instead of shield batteries. That is what they need to do in this situation. They just have to deal with it. As Trigger went for a Twilight Council at home, he's going for a Proxy Dark Shrine across the map. The Oracles do dive in, and they're going to get some damage done. They can one-shot probes, and 4 probes will fall. Meanwhile, across the map, ShoWTimE, does he have detection? He does have a Robo finishing up. Even though he hasn't scouted the proxy, he does have access to an observer. DTs are waddling on in. So far, Immortal first. Will ShoWTimE realize what's happening? Does he see? Does he know? He does! He walls off. He does wall off. He does recall his oracles back home. Throws down the revelations. And he does take down one of those DTs. He's going to get the second. But before he gets the third, a lot of probes are going down. 4 probes. Not too bad. We're going to get 5. We don't get 6. Whew. Now, despite that damage, ShoWTimE, he still has a worker lead. He's still ahead in the worker count. Still ahead in the economy. As another probe falls. And things are going to be settling down from here. The proxy has been scouted, and as a result, ShoWTimE is going to be able to hunt it down, shut it down. As he maneuvers his army over. Third base is on the way. Trigger is making his way over towards that proxy location to try and save it, if possible. But alas, they will both be losing their pylons. We have a defensive DT being warped in. Pylon will fall. But there's that revelation. Good target firing on the Immortal. But the Immortal will survive. And again, with the abundance of Immortals that ShoWTimE has, he's going to be able to hold on. Even though ShoWTimE doesn't have Blink, even though his army is less flexible than that of Trigger, he has a more potent army because of these Immortals. Shield batteries are on the way. ShoWTimE, he's holding onto the third. Trigger, he's trying to make use of how much more maneuverable his army is. He's going to try to pick up some units. He may get an Oracle. Up! Ooh. Very nice pickup. Almost getting the shield battery as well, as both players are getting into their thirds, and things are going to be calming down from here. So there are a couple of differences between the two players, as Trigger is still shocking around for some damage, gets that shield battery. Oh, good force field. Trigger will lose the Stalker. But again, Trigger, he does have faster Blink. ShoWTimE may decide to skip Blink entirely, as he just finishes up his Twilight Council. He could work towards Charge, and yep, there we go. So ShoWTimE is going for a more Immortal Archon Charge Lock composition, avoiding Blink Stalkers entirely. Even though Blink Stalkers, for the most part, are a very core unit in this matchup, it is something that ShoWTimE is going to avoid, and is just going to avoid. As the third bases are getting up and running, it means that ShoWTimE is just going to have like a death ball of an army. Archons, Immortals, Charge Lots. Speaking of Archons, there's that Templar Archives in production. Now, with the map control that Trigger has, he should be going for a faster fourth. Oh. He should be like leveraging that into a faster fourth base, into maybe even taking up in a different direction as well. For the time being, pure Blink Stalkers. It's working on Immortals and Charge as well, to be fair. Speaking of that fourth, it looks like Trigger was thinking along those lines, but ShoWTimE was here to deny it. Is able to shut down that probe. And ShoWTimE is actually the first player to take their fourth. Only by like a second or two. So again, not the biggest difference, but is able to keep up with Trigger nonetheless. As Trigger is going to rotate over and hopefully look to cancel this base. Alas, he is being pushed back. And a Trigger is sending his army over to reinforce. He has an Immortal. Charge is now done. +1 about to kick in. We're about to have an even upgrade count. But Trigger, he does have a bit much here. There is no shield battery, there's no overcharge. There's no overcharge available, but ShoWTimE is going to commit to the fight anyway. Good juggling here on the Archons and the Immortals. You can see ShoWTimE just closing the gap, closing the distance. But alas, there are just so many Zealots. Trigger is forced back at the same time. Oh, the Oracles do get a lot of damage on across the map. 7 probes go down. ShoWTimE able to defend and harass at the same time. But it's not over. Trigger isn't done. He's now going to be warping in additional Archons, reinforcing. Going to be pushing towards the 3rd while he has a run-by set up here at the 4th. Now, unfortunately, this is an anti-timing for Trigger, in a way. +2 just kicked in for ShoWTimE, and he's now starting on +3. So his army is just superior than his opponent. These shield batteries aren't done yet. But it may not matter. It may not matter. My god, we have so many Archons for ShoWTimE. Again, the juggling, good enough. See the Archons just bullying these Stalkers back. And with that Warp Prism Micro, we're able to keep the majority of these Archons alive. And now ShoWTimE, he's had enough. He's had enough just being the defender. He is now moving out. Looking to be the aggressor. Trigger, is he ready for this? He has 1 shield battery at his 3rd base. He's going to have an overcharge. He has 1 Immortal, 1 Archon. A lot of Blink Stalkers. He could maybe try to wrap around and snipe the Warp Prism. That'd be ideal. We could even end up in a base trade as well. Alright, here we go. ShoWTimE is looking to bust in. At the same time, Trigger goes for a counterattack. We do have a pseudo-base trade. Of course, both players can always recall. But we are committed. 3rd base from both players are going to be going down. And where do we go from there? Oh, ShoWTimE is going to recall. Recalls to his 3rd. As Trigger, he's going for the production. He's going for the gateways. Going straight for the main, for the jugular. At the same time, ShoWTimE slowly pushing into the natural, and it looks like Trigger will recall back home. He's coming in from behind. He's looking for the surround. ShoWTimE heavily supply block, but he still has a massive army. He can turn around. He can fight this. Oh my god. He can just straight up turn around and fight. Despite the recall, despite the surround, despite the fact that ShoWTimE didn't even have everything here, it just goes to show how much of an army lead he had. As he's just powering his way through, GG gets called. And ShoWTimE will take game number 1. GG. Again, a very different style of play, of course, as a reminder, we are going to be switching servers and heading over to Europa, to the land of Europe. But yeah, very different styles here between our 2 players. Oh, we were able to see Trigger go for a mass Blink Stalker style, of course, with DTs mixed in initially as well. Likewise, we did see ShoWTimE instead forego Blink entirely and go for a more defensive style. Immortals, Archons, Charge Lots. It was really a game of ShoWTimE absorbing all of the aggression, all of these attacks, until he had mustered up enough of an army to counterattack once Trigger overextended. And once he took a bad fight, bam, immediately ShoWTimE was moving out, was on the hunt. And yeah, he was able to snowball and overpower Trigger. So we're getting ready for our next game. I'm updating. Smart. Hopefully we don't get left behind. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Oh no, should I have to download the entire thing? Oh, I may have to I may have to cast from your Discord stream again, Curry. Feels bad, man. But yeah, we are gonna go on a short break, I believe, unless is there already a lobby? Yeah, there's already a lobby. Ah, feels bad, man. Feels bad. So yeah, we may end up getting some robotic moments in audio. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a way around that. But yeah, we're gonna be going on a short break here, and when we return, we'll have game 2. We'll have game 2 of Trigger versus ShoWTimE. See you soon. And we are back. We apologize for the delay, but we were just getting everyone ready and sorted over on the European server. For those wondering, if you're curious, currently both regions are in different patches, different iterations of the game. So whenever you switch servers, you have to re-download the patch and re-download and re-download it. So it just took a little bit longer to get everything set up, but here we go. We're diving into game number 2. It's going to be taking place on Ancient Cistern. Oh boy, a bit of a more macro-oriented map. What's important is that because we're on the European server, it does mean that you can cancel the shield battery and you won't have to kill it yourself. Thank God. As we're getting in. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Ancient Cistern, we have the Canadian Protoss player representing Team Basilisk. It is Trigger. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the German Protoss player leading the series 1-0. It is ShoWTimE. Repping team big. He is big. It's huge. And once again, due to the map, we should be seeing 2 gate openers from both of our lovely players. No one's going for a gate expand. No one is that wild enough to do so. And yeah, more standard openers here, more mirrored builds, we should be saying. And we're going to be keeping our eye on the initial units that are going to be coming out from both players as well. If you recall, in Game 1, we saw Double Adept from both Trigger and ShoWTimE, and then we deviated from there. It was really interesting to see ShoWTimE go for a faster Stargate and Trigger go for a faster Twilight Council and delay their respective bases. We'll see if they go along the same vein or if we go in a different direction instead. As for the time being, both players are just going to be scouting, checking the edges of the map. Also in Game 1, ShoWTimE did throw down a fake proxy pylon to try to keep Trigger on his toes. And it looks like he's going to do the same. Both players will go for the fake proxy pylons, keeping their opponents guessing, keeping their opponents busy, at least in their minds, rent-free, all that good stuff, smoging. As the probes are going to be moving out, and the goal here now is going to be to try to get a read on the initial units of their opponents. Trigger is keeping his probe next to the pylon, interestingly enough, so we'll see if he does something with it. Oh, as it's going to be a proxy Twilight Council. Okay, he's actually making use of it. With this, we can go for a very fast Dark Shrine as well. It could be a DT rush. Meanwhile, back at home, ShoWTimE going for a very safe opener, going for a Stalker Sentry, which is ideal. The reason why I say that, sure, ShoWTimE is going to have less firepower. He's going to have less Stalkers, less map control, less aggression. Sure. But with this Sentry, he can hallucinate Scout. He can send a hallucination across the map, and with that, he should realize the pylon is missing. He should also realize the Nexus is late, and that there should be tech, and he could come across that Twilight Council. We can see it's not going to be a Dark Shrine. Blink is on the way instead, so not as wild of a proxy as I'm sure we would have liked, but regardless, Trigger is setting up for that proxy Blink, and we'll see if he goes all in, because Trigger has a 3rd gateway on the way. There is no Nexus. If he throws down a 4th, it's going to be a 1 base 4 gate Blink all in. Oh boy, the game is going to end one way or another here, as Trigger is just doubling down on pure Blink Stalker. ShoWTimE so far is none the wiser, but that's also why I was praising him for going for that Sentry, because here comes a hallucination, here comes a Scout. Oh, is going to be zoned away. Can he get past the Stalkers? It looks like he will not, but he will see the lack of Nexus. He has a piece of the puzzle. He knows something is amiss, something is wrong, but what exactly? He can't quite tell, as there is a 4th gateway on the way. Yep, it's going to be a 1 base 4 gate Blink all in from Trigger. The 4th gateway is across the map as a proxy, and ShoWTimE does confirm. He finds it. Oh no, he's going to shut it down. The Stalkers are falling one after the other. A terrible start for Trigger. The force fields are thrown down. Stalkers are falling left and right. He cannot keep up. He's being overwhelmed despite having a higher Stalker count. Blink isn't even done. And this proxy is shut down. It is cancelled, and Trigger has to run back home. Where do we go from here? There's still no Nexus. You can't transition. It's not it's not going to be possible. He has to commit. He has to double down. More Stalkers are on the way. And Buffy. I mean, Trigger, he's got to do what he can with what he has. He has to force the issue here, but alas, ShoWTimE is ready for it. GG gets called. There is no way for him to break the natural base, and ShoWTimE will take the series 2-0, taking down Trigger. GG. Trigger still will, unfortunately, bow out of Group A without taking a series, and ShoWTimE has a stronger chance now, has a stronger chance at actually making his way into the next round, into the playoff bracket, with a solid 2-0 win over his opponent. GG. Again, great scouting, great reaction, great control. From here, we have one series remaining. We also need a moment to tally up all of the scores and to figure out what happens with our next series. One last best of 3. It's going to be MaxPax versus Gumiho over on the Americas server. See you guys soon.